Hey everybody, welcome back to your Free TV. It is August 22nd. It is Friday TGIF. And I'm so glad to be back with you here finally a week later on the channel. And we're going to jump right in here with the news. I'll plug at the end of the channel. I'll start with my disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is protected by the United States Constitution protecting free speech, as well as the Sullivan Act and reporting. It is not intended to bully or harass anyone, never to incite violence, hatred, or lawlessness of any kind. It doesn't give legal, medical, or financial advice, and there are further disclaimers in the description below. And so I'm going to jump right in. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, everybody. Donations, monthly commitments, the great comments, the prayers, the news tips, all of it. I appreciate you. You keep me going. I'm sorry for the week absence here, another TGIF video, because there's just a lot going on here in life. And it's kind of the dog days of summer. So it's kind of like, I'm trying to manage life with the videos. And we're going to do a great one today. So let's jump in. So, of course, we have incredible news. Of course, it's been a week of just over-the-top incredible news. And, of course, John Bolton being raided by the FBI, both at his home in suburban Maryland, outside D.C., right outside D.C., and his office in D.C. Okay, John Bolton, of course, one of the signers of the intelligence letter to the op-ed of the New York Times, to deal with the Hunter Biden laptop and the ongoing thing against the stealing of the election in 2020, right before that in October. But of course, so much of it is saying it has to do with his book, The Room Where It Happened, right? The Room Where It Happened. And of course, the house where it happened today was his, where the FBI raided. And it's very interesting to see because we're going to find out. He arrived back at the house around 2:30 Eastern time today to, check in what's going on with the FBI raid. And his book, of course, was never vetted properly through the Pentagon, which is 100% necessary and needed. Of course, Trump pulled off his Secret Service, his national security clearance months ago. And this goes in with what's going on with Gabbard at the ODNI. And she's just doing such an incredible job. And we're going to get into there in a second. And so we're seeing this with John Bolton. I believe there's going to be connections here to do with him with Bill Barr, everything that's been coming out. Bill Barr just testified on the 18th before the Epstein committee there at the Oversight Committee. We don't know the full details of that, but Bill Barr is saying, oh, Trump had nothing to do with the Epstein files, whatever. But there's a lot of other things with Barr going on besides to do with pay for play for visas, migrants, pardons, all of it. There's just so much going down here. And so, of course, Bolton's book was never properly vetted by the Pentagon. He wanted to go ahead and publish it anyway to try to, of course, combat Trump in this recent election. But now it's all coming home to roost, classified documents, all of it. And this gets back into his role, of course, in impeachment proceedings, all of this coming out on Bolton. And he is a great, specific, good player to start with. And we know that there's so much going on. Oh my God, there's just so much going on that it is over the top. So let's get into a number of things here. Of course, we're having Trump ever since, the whole display of the pimps of Europe coming here to control their Mark Zelensky at the White House on Monday, and everything that's come after. Trump has really reserved himself, removing any security guarantees, no deals made. And of course, we have Ursula von der Leyen coming out today, holding hostage the EU Tariff Deal with the USA, the economic deal, based on the Digital Services Act of the EU, where we had Tulsi Gabbard, of course, 3 days ago now, come out and say that the EU and the UK cannot go after Apple for a backdoor into all of your cell phones, all of your iPhones and your laptops, a backdoor so that the EU and the UK, through the Digital Services Act, can just come in and surveil everything you're doing online and basically try to capture you. We know that the Digital Services Act in the UK right now has been fining 4chan $20,000 a day under some EU dream. No jurisdiction. 4chan is an American company, and of course, a lot of the Q stuff happens on 4chan to do with all of the that whole situation. And so they've been going hard after 4chan, trying to claim that they're charging them $20,000 a day, and trying to shut down 4chan. And this is what we're dealing with. Okay, so von der Leyen now holding that hostage as Trump has moved back from saying there'll be any security guarantees out of the US to do with the Ukraine Russia conflict. And to me, I will just say this is a civil war of Russia. Okay, this is a civil war to do with 100 years war of what happened with the killing of the Tsar, the Romanovs, and the Bolshevik revolution planned by the global banksters, Rothschilds et al., paid and hired people to go in and overthrow the Tsar and to create this 100-year war. And Ukraine is the cradle of Russia. Okay, it is the birthplace of Russia. It is where all their culture stems from. And so this situation of Russia and Ukraine is a civil war, basically, that's going on. And just as the Russians came to the US during the civil war we had here, when the UK banksters and the French were coming in to support the Confederacy Revolution against the United States, there was the Russians who came in and with their navy and blocked the UK and the French naval ships. They came to us for our civil war. And this is the civil war that is happening in Russia. Russia, who Vladimir Putin did decades ago, tried to suggest that Russia could join NATO and could be part of a Western alliance, could be part of, and thank God that it was rejected, because here we are now where we're fighting the globalists, and Russia is the front lines here fighting the globalists, especially as Ukraine is um, the globalist capital of where, of course, now they're going to do Build Back Babylon better with Larry Fink now. He literally strong-armed kind of a hostile takeover of the World Economic Forum, where he was able to manage this thing with Klaus Schwab, where Klaus Schwab wouldn't be prosecuted. They kind of captured Klaus Schwab. They knew it all along. This thing of the World Economic Forum Foundation, that Schwab was, it was a parallel organization that where he was just funneling money through, going every which way, but so much of it to himself and his family. Uh, and he was caught out, but they just decided to catch him out, even though they knew it was happening all the time. And basically, Schwab was left, got off his charges or whatever for criminality in the organization, so that Larry Fink could become co-chair along with Hoffman, Andre Hoffman. So you have these two massive bankster people leading Blackrock, Larry Fink controlling the World Economic Forum. When we look at civil wars, this is the globalist, um, this is the planetary civil war, or you could at least say it is Western civilization civil war of the elitist banksters versus the world of the West, specifically. Um, the most important here, and certainly anti-Christianity massively on the whole. And so putting him in charge there, and we know they're in Jackson Hole right now. We have, Powell coming out, the tariffs are causing a 2%, 2.6% increase in the costs of living here in the U.S. and on all of this. And Larry Fink is there. This is the Jackson Hole meetup of the Federal Reserve banksters that happens every year at this time. And this comes a couple weeks after the Allen and Company, a name I haven't talked about for quite a while, but Allen and Company they don't even have a presence online. They are so elite out of New York, and they have a summer camp for billionaires in Sun Valley, Utah, and they all come to there first. Bezos, Zuckerberg, all the big tech guys, Larry Fink, everybody goes there first. They decide what they're going to do for Jackson Hole, and of course, right now it is about the World Economic Forum trying to regain control with Blackrock's $11 trillion in assets. They know that they want to commit $1 trillion of those to the Ukraine Build Back Babylon Better. And so this threat that's going on, and Trump trying to hold ground, saying no security guarantees from the U.S., maybe we'll do air power, and we will wait and see what Russia's going to do, as Russia is continuing to assault the Ukraine empire there. And we have Orban and the president of Slovakia, who they tried to kill. The globalist leaders tried to kill out of NATO and MI6 and CIA, etc., a couple of years ago. Well, they said, well, what just happened recently, where we saw these explosions on the Hungarian and Slovakian borders here, that came from Ukraine. It didn't come from Russia, even though it's being said, oh, Russia is doing all these massive attacks. They're coming out and saying they are trying to attack us. And they're trying to do a color revolution on Viktor Orban there in Hungary. And of course, there had been this mention maybe they'll have a Zelensky-Putin meeting in Hungary and Budapest. And of course, that's where Ukraine was, the agreement was Ukraine will be able to exist as a country if they give up their nuclear weapons. And this had everything to do with the Minsk agreements and no expansion of NATO, etc., immediately violated. And so it's all at a standstill, and I'm all for it. And I'll just say on this channel, honestly, if they would, if Trump would stand back and have nothing to do with it, we had, of course, the EU saying we're going to have a 250,000 troops there in Ukraine to protect against Russia, peacekeeping force, but they don't have the troops. Okay, UK might have 17,000. All of Europe, including Turkey, the biggest nation for anything military in the EU. Together, they have about 380,000 troops. We now know, and the leaks that came out in the last couple of days, that there's been 625,000 Ukrainians killed in just in 2025. The escalation, and of course, Putin's plan to ramp up what has been this war of attrition to actually use their more advanced plans to go against Ukraine. And so what I'm saying here is that this civil war that really is about Russia, Ukraine, and the birthplace of Russia, and the creation of the Bolshevik Revolution, and the attempt to take down Russia for all this time has been about the globalists trying to take control of the world. And so here we sit as we look at all of this. And so let's get into a bunch of what's gone down. When we look at this civil war of humanity, Western civilization, and Christianity versus the globalist antichrist system that they're trying to bring in, and Larry Fink taking control of the World Economic Forum, where they already have control of, and their whole agenda right now is to reinforce and bring back Agenda 2030, ESGs, all of it. And and with Ukraine, we already have Cargill, Bill Gates, Monsanto, everybody buying up what was used to be the breadbasket. Okay, there in Ukraine, with even after they had killed the kulaks, the Bolsheviks killed the kulaks, killed all the farming industry in Ukraine back in the revolution, and then starved 5 million people after that, right? And basically made it into the hellhole that it is now. That basically we have the situation now where the World Economic Forum is Build Back Babylon Better Ukraine. And it's a little bit Israel North that I've been talking about for years. And they want to do all of their smart everything, all of their conditions of Agenda 2030, where digital citizens, total surveillance, everything smart, everything that is will be built. There will be no single family homes. It will all be in the system of an entire country being built. Remember in the Soviet Union where they had those block cement houses, right? Well, now it is going to be a friendlier version of that, The same thing, take away their ability to travel, take away ability to own cars. They're going to do it all there, plus the bug farming, the vertical farming, um, the um, the destruction of what was great agriculture into this degradation of, putting the vaccines in the foods, all of it, and that's what Larry Fink is there for. And now, just basically, he's becoming a bit of a king of the world, in strong arming his ouster of Klaus Schwab and taking over World Economic Forum, and being the guy in charge of BlackRock, which is above them is Vanguard. Vanguard owns BlackRock. So Vanguard is literally, that we get into the Dutch royals, we get into the super elites, the trillionaires out there of Vanguard, and they run BlackRock, they run Larry Fink. So the cartel Babylon sits behind them, right? And all their international organizations, City of London, Business, the Bank of International Settlements, all have immunity as international organizations since 1947 in this International Organizations Immunity Act of 1947, which they immediately put in. And why Trump is not getting into security guarantees and pushing this off and letting Russia do its thing while acting angry before the media. Trump Trump continuously acts angry before the media when he is doing other things. Okay, so don't get too dismayed or disheartened when you see him say, "I'm very upset about this. I'm very angry about this." If he was, he would be doing something. Okay, he's holding back, letting Russia do what it's doing, and he's looking at how the EU has already pulled back. They don't have the troops. They can't do the security forces in Ukraine. And so, as we look at this and we see what's coming next, um, we have to understand that Russia, in response to the sanctions that has come upon them since 2014, 2015, but up through the invasion 3 years ago into Ukraine, to reclaim territory, they have had incredible economic boom, okay, in their country. That the sanctions allowed them to go fully interior, very much like what Trump is doing here in the United States of America first. Russia became Russia first and built incredible industry in response to these sanctions, pulled off by um, Obama, Biden, Blinken, everybody, and that they have basically, we have BRICS, that's massive, with the new currency and everything that means, but also they're one of the biggest producers of organic food in the world right now. For them, natural resources is their economy. So of course they have the rare earths, they have all of the elements for mining, they have energy, oil, gas, etc. And they have just really diversified and made Russia first a thing, very much like what we were hoping and wishing President Trump could do just stop all of the allying with all these globalist factions. And I believe that Trump is moving more and more towards that. And so let's get into a couple things here, because there are some really dodgy stuff. And one of the things, well, actually, I want to mention this first. I want to mention that John Brennan, under the investigations here with Tulsi Gabbard, who now is gutting 40% more out of the office of the Director of National Intelligence. That office was created after 9/11 as a way to control the intelligence agencies, to move it towards domestic theism, to try to surveil Americans. All of the threat of Islam quickly became Islamophobia. It is massively about the surveillance and control of the United States per Clinton and Bush, being everything to do with Agenda 2030 and what was coming, and the mass surveillance infrastructure in the United States. And of course, Mossad and Israel, you can't forget them being so super absolutely involved at the heart of it. And so when we look at this and we look at things like Alexandrovich, the head of cybersecurity in Israel, being arrested and then fleeing to Israel, that's a huge thing. That could be an Israel last type situation that we have going on here, which is really important. But when we look at, Russia's doing its economic miracle, we have to kind of, just be understanding that we can do the same thing if we keep fighting it. But so, okay. So going on here, I just want to mention here with Blackrock, but yeah, okay, first, sorry, I know I'm skipping around, but Brennan, yes, Brennan has seemingly fled the United States, last seen in Austria. He, of course, does this MSNBC, which is now MS Now, which is just like MS Now. It's like SM Now. I don't know. More BS Now. He has always the MSNBC logo behind him, but it's being reported that he has fled the U.S. He is a dual citizen with Ireland. And so we have the former CIA director, who is a convert to Islam, and has basically been caught out for everything Russiagate and everything creating the fake intelligence that led to the attempt to divide Trump from Russia, any detente, any communications, even with Ukraine, and what became, of course, the impeachments. All of it resides with John Brennan and, of course, James Comey, who has repeatedly lied before Congress about his leaks to the New York Times, his connections with the Colombian professor that was the staging of the articles that got Pulitzer Prizes for the New York Times. We have Brennan fleeing the country. Okay, so he's gone. I mean, that's massive, and it looks like he'll be heading to Ireland. And so I want to bring to our attention as we're looking at Blackrock, at Larry Fink, becoming basically one of the kings of the world here, but totally controlled by the Vanguard overlords. Um, uh, that he got a huge win that we don't know about, and this came out of the Genius Act, and we've all been really squirreled on the Genius Act that Trump did, his executive order, and then the Genius Act passing through Congress, and this to do with, of course, cryptocurrency, stablecoin, Trump trying to attach the U.S. economy to this crypto and stablecoin effort, which is squirrely at best, in my opinion. But when we look at this thing that made it in there, a little secret add-in into the Genius Act, is that you can't sue, okay, the hedge fund firm, BlackRock, okay, that invests your 401k. So if you are, you can the EO by Trump was you can transfer your 401ks into crypto, etc., do all kinds of great stuff, supposedly. But basically, there was a little add-in in there where you cannot sue the firm that is investing your 401k, and we know that there's about 98 billion or something that BlackRock owns in crypto. And so this is a really huge thing. Okay, so um, when you think about that, there's $4 trillion in private equity funds right now, and that they can't sell what they have, and they're paying massive interest on it because so much of it is based on U.S. debt. This could be part of all of this as they try to squirrel off people's 401ks into this debt system. And so we're going to keep viewing that, and I'll get back to it. But it is very interesting and important to remember and understand. And when we look at things like Andrew Bailey being brought in as co-deputy director of the FBI, really, I think that's a temporary position for him. I think that's something, what we saw immediately. They brought in Andrew Bailey, Missouri AG, resigned from his position as AG of Missouri, like total one of the kings of the AGs, him, Paxton, a few others. They had been suing BlackRock, okay, for antitrust. And Gail Slater, over at the DOJ, she's full bore on antitrust to do with BlackRock. And she's the deputy AG for the antitrust, Gail Slater. She's doing a great job. But what we get here with like there's I think a dozen states have sued BlackRock and State Street and Vanguard for trying to for antitrust, racketeering, to take down the energy systems of the United States. Okay, so this just goes contra to what I just said here. And with Larry Fink saying, I'm going to rebuild the ESG system with World Economic Forum. This is a 2030 agenda reboot. He's saying this in Jackson Hole in the last 2 days. And so while we're watching all of this, and we're watching Andrew Bailey come in, and then today, immediately as he's in, we're seeing this this raid on, of course, John Bolton. And so it's all very interesting. He's a real heavy hitter, and he's a very astute lawyer and legal professional, obviously as an AG. And so he's coming in here, and he was the number one contender outside of Kash Patel to be the head of the FBI. So being brought in as co deputy of the FBI doesn't seem like it's going to be a deputy director. Doesn't seem like it's going to stand for long, and we're probably going to be seeing some changes here. And so we'll keep watching that as it goes. And so I want to move on to a bunch of things here. I want to move into, gosh, some really cool stuff. We have that it's coming out that it's coming out of James Comer as we're having the Epstein hearings going on, the people coming in to testify. And he's saying that James Comer is saying that Bill Clinton is kind of the number one person they're waiting to hear from. And I don't believe that's till early October. But he's basically saying this investigation is leading more and more towards Bill Clinton. And the Clintons are having just a really crap time right now. They're being investigated 9 ways to Sunday as, who was it that said that? Was that Clapper? Yeah, that the IRS is now re-upping their original criminal investigation into Clinton Global Initiative, Clinton Foundation, their money that came from USAID, Open Society, Soros, the funding by Epstein, everything to do with Act Blue. That is now becoming a revived IRS criminal investigation. And this is, of course, since Bessent took over the IRS temporarily as the interim director. And so very interesting to see this. And of course, Hillary Clinton is also being investigated, her law license, now that everything is coming out about the Russian dossier and all of this. It's very interesting. And also extremely interesting is that they're saying they have 19 hidden bank accounts that are being investigated here, as well as 48 other foundations and shell companies that that the Clintons have outside of the Clinton Foundation and Clinton Global Initiative. And of course, the original funding by Epstein gets into Leon Black and Blackstone. Leon Black paying Epstein $100 million for tax advice, right? But this is all going to be fantastic. And one thing to kind of remember here and looking into this is one of the things that is coming out is that one of the foundations under the Clintons, under their umbrella, is a foundation that has child trafficking complaints. And this is what's coming out from James Comer, that this is all going down. And these child trafficking complaints, of course, gets back to the Wiener laptop, which doesn't get enough press or enough, enough understanding, quickly buried. And now, Huma Abedin, you know, uh, Clinton's bestie there is now married, divorced Wiener over the laptop, and is now married to Alex Soros, right? And so that's what we're dealing with, and it's very exciting to see that it's also coming out that Hillary Clinton's emails have been discovered to have been going straight to a CCP related corporation based basically right outside Langley, Virginia, right outside the CIA. that all of her emails that have been in question were funneled straight to China, and that is part of the big pay for play. And so when we look at what's going on here, just shifting gears here a little bit, we look at people like Lindsey Graham and Blumenthal, and when we saw, the pimp, the Europe's pimps coming to bring Zelensky here to guard and make sure that they control everything he did, just showing up here in America, and what we're finding out, a very interesting thing, just like the John Brennan's fleeing the country, is that we also have this situation of it's coming out, and for entertainment purposes only, we have what looks like Lindsey Graham and Blumenthal, Richard Blumenthal, Fake Valor, Vietnam, and Lindsey Graham, who both have apartments in Kiev that are paid for by taxpayer dollar money every month. We're paying for their apartments because they go back and forth so much to the capital of Cartel Babylon, to the capital of the economy of sin. And it's coming out, and hopefully this is Sam Faddis, CIA former spy agent, with his contacts putting this out, that he believes, and he didn't say them specifically, but he said the top person at the GOP, who does the Ukraine lobbying, and the Ukraine lobby is huge. It's almost as big as AIPAC. In fact, they're kind of the same people, the Ukraine lobby and the AIPAC lobby, right? And so basically that of the money that's missing out of Ukraine, he's saying that there's at least 23 Congress people being paid directly from that, and that this is going to come out soon. The money out of the stolen Ukraine money, and it's coming out more again about the Zelensky money going to the UAE, that he's stealing out of it. That basically, possibly Lindsey Graham has been paid at least $16 million out of that money, and Blumenthal at least $21 million. Okay, and these are the people who lead the uniparty Ukraine fund, war, everything, the machine that people have been trained to think, oh, Ukraine good, Russia bad, when literally it's the opposite. It is the opposite. It is the correcting what has been going on for 100 years, okay, with Russia being at the forefront of the head of defeating globalism, okay, not adhering to anything globalist after they escaped from the communist regime, and certainly what Putin's been doing, okay, and he's no angel. This isn't about Putin angel. This is about understanding that we have a Christian country fighting against the Cartel Babylon Atlanticist globalists that are trying to destroy America. And so very interesting to see that as well. I think that's pretty important. And so I'm going to go on from there and just talk about many more things. I learned this from Mel K today. This has to do with a new, very disturbing organization, but it's not new, but it is disturbing what they're up to. And this has to do with people calling themselves the Department of Class Solidarity. And this is the International Communist group that is now just building a huge movement here in the USA. They're calling themselves the War Room for the Working Class. And basically, their mission, they're saying, is to audit and track the billionaires in America tied to Trump, trying to go after Trump for his connections um, to everybody. And it's very interesting. They're targeting Musk, Alex Karp out of Palantir, um, Bezos, Amazon, Peter Thiel, Gates, all of this. So it's very interesting because we're like, well, those are the same people we want to know about. And it kind of brings, to my mind, another interview I heard today, um, basically describing that, all of Americans, the uniparty thing has just been built on hatred to try to do the Cloward and Piven on the USA. But in general, in polling, the working class of Americans, Republican or Democrat or whatever, have about 93% of the same values, okay, 93% of the same concerns. It mostly has to do with the economy, affordable housing, taxes, freedom, all of these things. And the rest of it is all, one issue politics, based on what they do with color revolution, identity politics, and all of this. And so it's very interesting that they're staging this, because it looks like next month in the Hamptons in Long Island, they're going to be doing a huge situation. Actually, I think this week they're starting something, um, where they are basically trying to launch what is going to happen. Um, let's see here. August 31st. August 31st. A huge march called Invade the Hamptons. Invade the Hamptons. And this is again class solidarity. And they are aligned with the Solidarity Center that has been supported by USAID and the Department of Labor, to the tune of $6 million from the Department of Labor in 2023. A lot of that money going out of the country to Indonesia, Chile, Brazil, etc. And so this Invade the Hamptons march, very interesting, on August 31st. I can remember myself of seeing Larry Fink at house parties on Long Island in their giant mansions, where he's the DJ. He likes to be a DJ, Larry Fink, in control of $11 trillion. He likes to put on his DJ hat and spin some records, and have massive drug parties out there in Long Island, in the Hamptons. So it'll be very interesting to see how this goes. They're planning for 2026, this communist group. They're openly Trotskyite, openly talking about replicating the Bolshevik revolution in the United States. But basically, their plans for 2026 include mass civil disobedience, and a color revolution. They're believing that in 2027 and 2028, they'll gain enough to actually have a revolution in the United States. And this gets to the 2028 election. And of course, that gets to Mamdani and what's going on there. As we look at the situation of Gavin Newsom going for the gold here, trying to imitate, mimic, emulate Trump in his podcasts, in his tweets. Basically, just the bogus deal. He can't pull it off, but he will not make it, and Gavin Newsom will not be president. I mean, that's just ridiculous. But Mamdani is who they're going for ultimately. And what we're finding out, it's come out massively that Mamdani, it's been shown, multiple times now, that his funding is not at all any way organic. Yes, they're getting tons and tons of Muslims to register to vote in the mosques. They're doing all of that. It is the Red Green Alliance, which is communism and Sharia law. And it's the same thing they did in London. And what we're seeing in London is we have Sadiq Khan now going to run for prime minister. Okay, he's the destroyer of London. He is, of course, the non UK born guy who has taken over London, and made the whole invasion happen, to the point where now there's tons and tons of talk in the UK of a civil war. And a lot of this is being ginned up, mostly because they kind of want it to happen. But we could see Sadiq Khan running against somebody like Nigel Farage. And we're seeing, over last weekend, where you had in Canary Wharf in London, where they raised the Union Jack, and you had a rally for British natives to come out and say, we want to end this takeover, this migration replacement in our country. And so there's a lot going on here. And so Mamdani is the Sadiq Khan of the United States. And they want to get him into New York, even though it has been shown now, even to the level that, yes, all of the multiple spider web of NGOs funding Mamdani are all reach back to Open Society. They all reach back to Alexandr Soros, and the Open Society massive umbrella. And even to the point where, when they're tracking online the handshakes that happen, on his website, his campaign website, to do with the donate button. That it's so feeble what is actually going on with individual donations, that it's being proven that way. And that's a very interesting way to go about it, to actually show that those handshakes haven't happened, that it literally is all big money coming in for Mamdani, who is doing hugely just going for the Oscar performance of pretending he's a politician when he literally is a trained actor, and of course brought up in Uganda, didn't get his citizenship in the United States until he decided to go for his position there in city politics in New York at age 28. So same program, same plan is what they're doing here. And so when we look at what's going on in the UK with this supposed civil war that could be, you have colonels out of the UK military coming and saying, we're at this place where native British are just, and it's same in Ireland, about to kick off as a live civil war here. And it's very interesting when we look at David Betts, Professor David Betts. He's a war professor on about war at the King's College in London, very prestigious. And he's basically saying, we're on this verge of the UK being a failed state, and that's how most people view it in the UK. That we're looking at number one, the factionalization of society, they've made it so unsafe. That's why when we look here at what Trump's doing in DC, Trump is now saying, we're going to redo all the parks. We're putting in new grass, new sprinkler systems. It's going to be beautiful. It's really great. Sorry, I might have to pause for a second. Okay, resuming. I had to pause and take some water. Okay, so when we look at what's going on in the UK, what Professor Betts is saying is that there's losing status to minority power in their society, that native British have lost their status as the control of the culture and the government, and that is leading to a civil war and the loss of faith in the legitimate parliamentary system. Sounds very familiar, doesn't it? Sounds like USA. It sounds like MAGA. And so we'll see what goes on there in the UK. They are fighting back, and the same in Israel hugely. And of course, again, I will say, populism should be the response to the uniparty, both sides, that we both want the same things. And the singular issues are important. They are important, but they are secondary to about 90 to 93% of what we all want in common: access to safe, clean water, air, food, housing, jobs. All of that is about quality of life is basic to both. And what's being predicted in the UK is that in the next 6 months, they'll see some massive uprisings going on. And if we see Farage running against Sadiq Khan, Nigel Farage, the creation of Brexit and the movement to get out of the EU, we could see basically a solution here, kind of like if we just let Putin take Ukraine and Trump just gets out of the way. We could see a massive fight against World Economic Forum, the takedown of their ability to build back Babylon better in Ukraine. We could see the Revolution 1 against the globalists in the one of the oldest attempts to kill a Christian society, that is Russia, take it over by communism with the banksters hugely connected out of Israel. We could see stopping of the Build Back Babylon Better in Ukraine if they just let Putin go. That is basically about the cradle of civilization of their culture and country of Russia out of Ukraine, literally, historically. And so it's the same here, to just it's a smaller version. But if we look at if it could be Farage against Sadiq Khan running for prime minister there in the UK, it kind of justifies, in a way, with Sadiq Khan, who is the destroyer of London and the mass migration to destroy London of Muslims into the country, going against Farage, being for the native population of the UK, it could be a justified and really good attack against the globalists again. This all gets into the globalist plan for the UK, and to destroy all the West with Muslim migration. And so it'd be very interesting to see, because in the statistics that have been coming out, they're saying in 40 years there could be very few native Britons even existing in the UK anymore. And of course, this gets into population, it gets into the birth of babies and how that is being so destroyed by the shots and the biowar. And so, very interesting here to look at this. You know, Blackrock, as I said before, it is a paradigm that van der Leyen is now, you know, under the Digital Services Act, trying to, you know, pause what Gabbard is saying, that, you know, they can't invade Apple, they can't have backdoors, they can't be surveilling everybody in the United States and everywhere else. JD Vance weighing in hard there as well. That using that, it's not just about that, why van der Leyen is holding out the tariff trade agreement with the United States. Of course, it gets back into Ukraine. And when we look at this in the Build Back Babylon Better Ukraine, that is Larry Fink strong arming, becoming head of the World Economic Forum, just mini king of the world. Blackrock has been buying up utilities, okay, across the world, just as the Rothschilds have owned them all forever. The Department of Energies across the world, hugely militarized, and the grid systems, and has come into everything from the mass fires to basically controlling the pricing, you know, just fleecing the people of the world to pay for energy that should be super, super cheap to produce, and shouldn't, you know, honestly, once the grid system is up, besides just the production of energy, there shouldn't be anything and to pay. And so BlackRock is buying it up. Okay, they're buying it up. The new Rothschilds is the BlackRock, Larry Fink, right, and Finkelstein, and he is buying up the grid across the world for BlackRock. And this, of course, ties into the AI data centers. And we have to remember that Larry Fink also owns, I think, just underneath Musk, the majority share under Larry Fink, BlackRock, of Grok AI, and of course everything AI being built by Musk. And so it's important to understand how all of this is interrelated, where it's going. And I want to, just to that point, I want to bring up Alexandrovich. Okay, Alexandrovich, the cyber chief, basically, of the Israel um, defense system. He created the Cyber Dome. And we have Israel just selling $1.37 billion in weapons to Serbia of their systems, including Cyberdome systems, basically everything tested in the genocide of Gaza and the control of Gaza with drones and AI identification, all of it. That is now has been sold to Serbia for $1.37 billion. And Serbia, of course, is super connected in the servers when it comes to the election steal 2020, and super connected in the Smartmatic. We have, of course, 4,000 Marines going to Venezuela now, speaking of Smartmatic, and what could be coming for the attack on the cartels, and also everything Venezuela connected with it. Cartels down into Mexico and the control of the CCP of Venezuela. All of this is playing out. But when we look at this, you know, when we look at what is going on there, maybe I'll jump to that. And there's so much to talk about. Okay. If we look at what's going on there, yeah, I think I might jump to that for a second, to Venezuela, because Venezuela and what we could have coming here, is that we're looking at Trump basically saying we're going to go and destroy the cartels. And if we look at Mexico and we look at what is happening with it's a narco failed state. It's a total captured failed state, again, by the globalists as a Ukraine version. Okay, Ukraine is the same. Number one hub of child trafficking, number one hub of weapons trafficking, narcotics, organs, biowarfare. Okay, that's Ukraine. They've been using it as their build back, they're just Cartel Babylon um, uh, laboratory. Okay, and hub for all this trafficking. And you have Ursula von der Leyen putting out to Trump at the White House, Russia has stolen 200,000 children, okay, from Ukraine, and that's complete baloney. They stole the children. Who knows where they are? We have our 500,000 here, and I always say look at the deep underground military bases to find them. But in Ukraine and also in Israel, the strange thing of when Iran hit that one elite military base for biowarfare there outside of Haifa, all these children coming out of there. Yeah, where are the Ukrainian children? They're not in Russia, okay? And Ursula von der Leyen putting out, well, we have to make sure one stipulation is Russia returns the children, which they know they can never do because Russia never took the children, okay? It's quite the opposite. And so um, I would just bring that up there because when we look at what's going on here with the Marines going down to Venezuela, battle carrier group, submarines, all of this, we need to look at what it means that there could be a way for the Mexicans to have their own, you know, country back, and how incredible that would be if we could actually empower Mexico. And of course, the Mexicans should be armed. They had their arms stolen from them, their weapons stolen from them, their guns, as a way to control them, so that the narco state could take over the same exact machine that goes on here under the Democrat banner of gun control, to allow what we've seen here, the mass criminality on our streets, in all of the zones, all the blue cities where, of course, they've forbidden guns and carry and open carry and all of it. No gun zones are where the cartels thrive. And so, as Trump is going on this huge effort here to take on Venezuela and the narco state of Mexico, I fully applaud it. I think it's fantastic. And I think what we really need is a, a militarized zone between Mexico and the United States, a sort of DMZ style, demilitarized zone, demilitarized, but it is, of course, surveilled and basically, a 100-mile stretch that makes it close to impossible for anything coming across Mexico, whether it is migrants, weapons, drugs, human and child trafficking, to cross that barrier. And hopefully, this will be something that comes out of this. And I listened to a really interesting um, partial interview with Stuart Rhodes today, former head of the Oath Keepers, who is now restarting the Oath Keepers, constitutional lawyer, very, very savvy, and of course was in prison as a J6er for a long extended period. He was one of the last to be pardoned. And I don't know if he even has been exactly pardoned yet, but he is free, thank goodness. Health massively suffered while he was in there. And the J6 committee is being massively hunted here right now by, of course, the Trump DOJ under Ed Martin, the weaponization of government. He has 800 people under him. He is going full bore after the J6 committee and gets into the pardons of them, the auto pen. He is going hard, and so that is really great. But Stuart Rhodes is really putting out that we really need in the USA the reconstruction of the militia, that is part of our Constitution, that every state is supposed to have its own working militia to come up and defend against the government, to come up and defend against authoritarian powers and any usurpation of the powers of the Constitution. Um, needs to exist, and of course against invaders into the country. And I fully agree with him, and hopefully we'll see some framework that that Stuart Rhodes and Oath Keepers is going to put out soon, and be able to catch you up on that. So it's very exciting, everything that's going on. I'm already at 54 minutes, and I just feel like I only touched in on it. We know that Trump is getting the executive order to end the mail-in ballots, massively being fought. Finally, Texas gets our 5 seats for the GOP, while California, massive battle there. And we really need, about 1 million Californians. We just really need a massive fight versus the Newsom Pelosi, machine trying to redistrict what is already super gerrymandered in California. And Trump, doing this basically against the with his executive order that's coming. He says we have top legal minds. We're going to try to prevent mail-in ballots across the country, and that won't do anything to your absentee ballot if you're disabled or military or other things, but it just means no more mass mailed out ballots that have been the way of fraud since the King's Privy Council, Pilgrim Society created Smartmatic with Serco, and DOMINION is who just settled with Newsmax for like $67 million or something. Is just an offshoot. It's the same technology, right? And that's what brought in Maduro, what brought in Hugo Chavez, the acolyte of Fidel Castro, that was formed in to become the first socialist leader of Venezuela through the Smartmatic machines. That was, of course, Venezuela at the time was the 5th greatest economy in the world, the most massive resources, one of the hugest, if not the hugest, oil reserves in the world. Turning that communist, bring in the nationalization of the resources, trillions of dollars being laundered out of that to elites, and of course Maduro ever since, and the starvation of the people of Venezuela, the mass inflation, and the destruction of a country. It is a fantastic study to exactly what they are trying to do to the USA right now, what they are doing in Europe, and the fight back is what we need. And so, as the World Economic Forum under Larry Fink, and especially with what will be their experimental zone of Ukraine, Build Back Babylon Better, $1 trillion reconstruction, which is why they're going so hard after Trump. We need you here for security guarantees. And Trump's like, no, I won't do it. And security guarantees are what got us into World War I. Security guarantees are what caused World War II. This is different than Article 5. Article 5, you can take a step back and say, Article 5 of NATO, and say, hey, I'm reviewing the situation. We'll come back to you. Security guarantees are like, no, if somebody attacks us, you have to go to war. And Trump is like, yeah, we're going to wait out on this. And we need that not to happen, because what Larry Fink wants is, of course, the USA to pick up the bill again, just as they are doing for everything else for the big banksters, picking up the bill, the buyouts of even private investment companies, all of that happening in all kinds of secret ways. Well, basically, Larry Fink, along with the governments of Europe, Australia, Canada, they are basically seeking to ban single family homes. And of course, any that already exist will just be taxed to the nth to basically destroy your possibility to keep your home, and no new construction of single family homes, as well as everything to do with driving cars, autonomous cars, gasoline cars, basically just saying, no, it's all going to be public transportation. And that's what they want for Ukraine, and that's why they need it so badly, because it's a giant cash cow. All of the minerals that the USA mineral deal was supposed to get, they already feel that they own, that they already bought it in the conflict. The Blackrock, the Gates, Cargill, Monsanto, they bought all the land not to build farms like Monsanto, Cargill. They're building it for biowarfare, vaccines in the food, vertical farming, the extraction of the wealth to do with energy. That is all pre-planned, and Trump trying to come in with this rare earth minerals deal and all of this. That's why I say over and over, let Russia take it. Make the deals with Russia, or don't, because Russia will be in the position to be able to resist this one world government that is basically threatening all of humanity with massive prison planet technocratic takeover. And so I will leave it there now at almost an hour. And I will just say thank you so much for watching. I'm going to jump in here just to support the channel with my fantastic sponsor, c60evo.com/YAFTV. And this is basically the incredible miracle molecule that is ESS60, made in the best lab in the world in Houston, Texas, by the guys who've been doing it the longest, with an incredible infrastructure of a lab that is unequaled basically anywhere in the world. They create all of the fullerenes used in industry, and then they create this special product that is completely devoid of all solvents, all everything, giving you the most potent carbon-60 as the ESS60 molecule used in all the studies against radiation, against so many things. There are further studies going on right now. So 10% off with the code YAFTV, cleans out your mitochondria, cleans out your cells, anti-radiation, anti-inflammation. People buy it up like hotcakes for the big C. Anything cellular that are the chronic diseases that gather in time and become a problem in our bodies because of cellular dysfunction, because of mitochondrial the pollution, basically, and your DNA starts to misfire. You get this situation with your mitochondria and your cellular health, and basically it cleans it out, crosses the blood-brain barrier, gets in there, gets the garbage out of your neurons, gets it out of your body, your trillions of cells. c60evo.com/YAFTV. Use code YAFTV for 10% off. People who subscribe to the channel get 15% off, and a new code and link sent to you. They have the oils, of course, as well. MCT oil, great for workouts, and the olive oil, great for the highest potency. And I will also say I'm doing a fundraiser for the channel, and I was gifted a bunch of these bottles that have recently expired um, under the the legal expiration date. But as a fundraiser for the channel, if you've ever wanted to try it, try the product, or just want to stock up, this has like at least 8-year shelf life. Okay, and so recently expired bottles. I'm doing a fundraiser for the channel, trying to get it, able to do more and spend more time with the channel. Anybody who gives $60 to the channel, that is like the price of $50 contribution, $10 for mailing. That's about what it costs now. The USPS has just gone up again, and send it to you. And I will link it below. You can check it out. Where if you want to get more bottles, less that you have to add for shipping. But it is a great fundraiser for the channel, and it is a product that I love and respect. And so I wanted to let you know that if you want to stock up, check out below how to do so. And thanks so much for watching. You are free. There's so much going on that I couldn't possibly fit it all in. And I'm sorry I could only do one this week. But I will be back with you again soon, and we will keep talking news. And I would just say pray, pray, pray. Pray for President Trump as people are going against his health constantly. Oh, he's doing bad. He's doing this. Dude, the man's 79. He's doing great, okay, compared to anybody else I know at that age. But we pray for his health, that he be protected mostly, because the degradation of his health is probably coming, from within, right? The call is coming from within. But we pray for his health, that he decides to eat well, take tons of supplements, and get really, protected by God. And that's the only thing that he needs, is that protection, ultimately. And so please, please, please pray for Trump and his team as we confront this new world economic forum order, with Fink crowned as king, Europe, going against Trump, the situation of the Russian Civil War. We have so much going for us, but this is go time. This is not like rest time. It's go, go, go. As far as our awareness, our prayers, full armor of God, as you move forward and choose your role and take action every day in that way. Okay, I will leave it there. Thanks so much for watching. You are free, and I will see you soon.